Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So as many of you guys can see, we're getting straight onto the videos now. We're no longer going to be doing intros, explaining to you what the video is going to be about, because as many of you guys know, you're going to be seeing what I'm going to be doing anyway. So if many of you guys remember from the previous video I put out over a month ago, I was fixing this new BMW 6 Series I'd purchased, and I'll put the video above so many of you guys can go and check it out and see the car I purchased. If many of you guys remember, this had a major oil leak coming from the oil filter housing gasket and the oil cooler. It had completely destroyed the belt, all the coolant hoses, and just got oil everywhere, even destroyed the water pump. In a time, obviously, you guys haven't seen this car. I've now corrected the oil filter housing gasket and the oil cooler gasket. I've now sorted all the new coolant hoses. This one right here, the upper one, took a long while to come, purely because it come from abroad. And the process of removing that, if many of you guys don't know, when you move that lower, smaller one down there, it ends up breaking the actual coolant thermostat for the oil cooler, and it broke the nipple off, so I had to order a new one of them as well. I also took the chance to renew the coolant expansion tank because the float had broken, which is common again. I've also replaced the water pump. I've replaced the coolant flange here. I've replaced the lower radiator hose and obviously the coolant temp sensor. I've replaced everything. Everything has now been replaced and ready to go. I even replaced the spark plugs because I didn't know when they had been changed. I do know this car had been serviced. Air filter was brand new, pollen filter was all brand new, but spark plugs hadn't been touched. Now, as I did say to many of you, if the valve cover does leak and it does need new dissers and CCV, then we'll go ahead and replace everything. Because while I'm down now, I'll replace the starter motor, the CCV, the valve cover gasket, because when you remove the CCV pipe on the back of the valve cover, it's going to crack anyway, so you have to order a whole new kit. And I'll go along and replace the dissers, so that way I've overhauled everything before I put it back together. Right now, none of that is an issue, but obviously later on it will be. The main thing we're going to be focusing on today, and the reason I'm doing this video, is purely for these down here, which are the Vanos Solenoids. Now, one thing I noticed, which I'll show you in a sec, you'll be able to see, when I actually got this car, was someone's already been in here and changed one of them, because one of the spring clips here that are on the solenoids were actually missing. This one wasn't on properly, so it just literally pushed straight off. One of the spring clips are missing, and the one that's actually missing for the spring clip, the solenoid is quite clean, where it looks like it's been replaced, which would be the exhaust one, which is the common one to go out. I do have two new Febby ones that I'm going to be replacing these with, just to be on the safe side, because I know it's coming to that mileage. They're going to fail and they're going to need changing anyway. So I've already purchased them. I'm going to go ahead and change them, and I'm going to be showing you guys, because a lot of you ask me, when you replace your Vanos solenoids, do you have to code them? And do you have to do anything else? I'm going to be showing you what you need to do after changing the Vanos solenoids, because a lot of you ain't aware of this. This is something I haven't really shown many of you on the videos previously, but this is something that you need to do, especially if you've had a fault with the Vanos solenoids itself. This is critical that you do what I'm going to be showing you after we install them, because otherwise a lot of you end up messaging me saying you changed the solenoids, your problem still exists. Yes, it's going to still exist unless you do what I'm about to do after we change them. Unless you do that, your problem is going to still exist, and then many of you are saying it wasn't that was the issue. And that's correct, because you haven't done the necessary process after replacing them. And we'll get onto that after, which I'll show you with the scan tool, what you need to do after replacing the solenoids. Now, I know many of you are going to say to me, well, I've never shown you this before, but if you don't have an issue with them and you just replace them purely as basic maintenance like I'm doing, you don't have to do this step. But if any of you had a fault code and you had an issue with your solenoids previously and you had through an engine management light, or you had the fault code still in your DME, you have to do something else to make the car restore its power, otherwise you won't feel the full benefits of the new solenoids. So if you can possibly see just down here on this one, on the second one, you possibly see it's got no spring clip. This one has one, which wasn't on until I actually pressed it on, but this one is actually missing a spring clip, and you will possibly see it just there. It's missing the clip on it, and we need to get a new one of them. But for now, we're going to be changing the solenoids, because they need changing anyway. And you'll probably see how shiny that one is compared to the other, which is all badly oiled up, but this one is quite new. but I am going to be replacing it anyway, and I'll just put them on my shelf as spares because I know they're working still and they might be good if I have, you never know, my 61s fail or something like that. Then I've got spare ones on the shelf. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to remove this connector from this right now, and the other one should just slide straight off, and I'm going to unbolt the 10mm bolt that goes here, and we'll take that out. And if you see I've caught it in my socket, you'll see there, so that way I don't lose it. It's right here. And I'm going to pull it to the side just to keep it safe because it's very, very tiny. You don't want to lose that. And what we'll do is we'll pull off the actual solenoid. I'm going to put a cloth down here because I don't want to destroy my new coolant pipes. I've only just fitted. To get them out, you just want to wobble them, and this come out quite easy, which tells me I believe these have probably been replaced at a point in this life. So that's good news. And the O-ring is quite new as well. You could possibly see there, these have been replaced because the O-ring is still quite new and quite soft. I'm surprised at that. These ain't as badly corroded as I thought they would have been. I'll put this back on here anyway, but these are quite in good condition, so I will keep them. But I do have brand new Febby ones you'll see there, which are in the box and still sealed in the pack. So like I said, I'm going to be replacing these anyway, just because we've got them. And this O-ring already comes oiled up out the packet. So we'll just stick this back in. And because these are new, these can be a bit stiff to get back in their area. But that went in quite easy. And this is always the hard part, trying to put the 10mm bolt back in. But that went back in easy. So we'll just tighten that down with our 10mm socket. So what we'll do is we'll leave that clip off because we need to do the next one. Which the next one's down here, and you'll just see how easy this connector will just pop off just like that, purely because someone's missing a spring clip. But now we know why that is, because these have been replaced at some point in its life. So we'll just take this bolt off again, do the other one. And I can feel someone's put this bolt on crooked already. So someone has been in here, definitely. Because the bolt was all in a bit bent. See, that's the other bolt. We'll put that here while we get the other solenoid out in a sec. Let's just get this one out. And that one should come out quite easy, which it has. Again, that looks in good condition. And the O-ring too. So I don't know if it's just purely because this car's either been looked after, because it does have full history, or it's just a case that someone has previously replaced these, because I do know an actual garage had this car before they sold it. It was sold by a dealer, a very high-tech dealer in the UK. So unless they managed to get BMW to replace it for them, I don't know, unless there were a problem with them. But we're talking a long time ago, so it is worth me replacing them anyway. And we will put the new one in. Again, these have all come oiled up out the pack. These are really good, actually. These Febby ones are well worth the money. Obviously, as many of you guys know, when I first done an M52, there wasn't many aftermarket parts or any manufacturers making parts for these cars. But as the years have gone on, there seems to be more and more now, like Febby and Peerberg making things like the Vanos Solenoids and things like that. Where when I first got my M52, and many of you guys would have known from many years ago, that simply weren't the case. Because I remember how many of you guys used to message me asking where to buy them, where you can find them. and so on and so on, because they were so hard to find. Now I'm in. Now I can tighten it all down. So now that's down, we'll just reconnect all our connectors. Obviously, this one here doesn't have a connector. This one can slot straight back on. And then now, that's the new solenoids installed. So now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna show you now what you need to do to safely make these solenoids activate, especially if you had a fault code for one of them going out. They will not just work on their own, because if the DME has a fault code stored for one of them solenoids, it will shut it off completely, just like it would on a cylinder. If a cylinder's misfiring, it will switch that cylinder off. And unless you reset it, it's not gonna work again. So that will be the same for the solenoid. If you have a fault code saved for a solenoid in your DME, that solenoid isn't gonna actuate properly. So don't just expect to pull it in and think it's gonna work out the blue. It's not gonna happen. I'm gonna show you what you need to do. So now we've installed the solenoids, we're gonna go ahead and move to the car, and I'm gonna show you what you need to do next. Now, a lot of you are gonna say to me, why have I never shown you this before? Why have I never told you this before? Not everything needs to be told straight away, and not everything needs to be shown straight away, especially as going forward, because as many of you guys know, when you show something, a lot of people end up copying you and trying to relay the information in the wrong way. And that happens a lot on YouTube. Someone will try and copy the video, try and relay it in another way because they've seen someone else do it. Now you'll see how many people that do install solenoids will explain exactly what I've explained to many of you guys, because many of you guys know, I know how these engines operate, especially with the Valvetronic system. And obviously, many people don't understand how it works, or wouldn't understand. A lot of people you would have seen, even yourselves, would have just slammed the solenoids in, replaced them, and done. Job done. That's never something I've ever done. But then saying that, I've never had the fault code of the solenoids going out on myself to worry about that, which I need to do now. But I know there's many of you out there that end up with the code that needs to do this, because I know a lot of you come back to my videos saying to me, you've installed a new one, you put new ones in, it didn't change anything, the car is still the same. And this is exactly why it's still the same. Okay guys, so you will see here, we've got the scan tool loading up, and I will link this scan tool in my description, and I'll also link it in my comment box below so many of you guys can go and check it out. These have gone up a price. Many of you will know who got it for 100 quid or $120. These are now £150 to buy, because this scan tool, I think I made a lot of BMW enthusiasts end up going to buy. This scan tool can do it all, and it's still the same scan tool I go to, as you'll see now, as you've seen on many videos. One of the best scan tools for BMW, it can do it all. You don't need anything else. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is go to diagnose, and the reason we're gonna go to diagnose is because we need to access certain functions for the solenoids. We're gonna click OK, and we're gonna let it load. Then we're just gonna do automatically search. It'll get the VIN, and then it will communicate to the car. Now once it does that, I'll show you the 3 steps you need to do in order to make these solenoids work and function correctly. We'll just click next. Okay, then it will read out all the vehicle data, all the modules on the car, and whatever else. We don't want to keep this video too long. I'm just going to show you very quickly what you need to access and what you need to go into to be able to do it. Now this will be the same for any scan tool you use, whether it's ISTA, whether it's another scan tool, Launch, Autel, it will all be in the same menus. So when you load it up like this, you'll be able to find it in everything I've gone into. And I will show you how to access it all. See there, we've just done all that. It does take a bit of time because it scans every module inside the car to find out what the car's actually got, see if everything's correct against the VO, because some people can code things that the car don't have. Some people can VO code certain things and then it won't find the module. Then you end up with a fault code, so it will let you know that as well, which is good. It's one of the reasons why I like this scan tool, and you guys know I wouldn't use something if I thought it was bad. This scan tool's excellent, best value for money scan tool you can get for a BMW. So if you can see here, we've got all of this. First thing we're going to go to is we're going to go to health report. Now, health report, the reason I say health report is because what we want is to see if there's any fault codes in a DME. Now, if you have fault codes in your DME relevant to exhaust, Vanos outlet or inlet, inlet code for the Vanos as well, you can see that your DME throttle valve adaptation. Don't worry about that on this car, it's because I did something earlier. If you have any of them, you want to clear the codes. And you want to completely wipe the code. And this is because unless you do this, the new solenoid is not going to function the way you need it to. Purely because the fault code is still there, the DME is picking it up, the system is picking it up, it won't let that solenoid work the way it needs to. You need to clear that fault code because it's shut off that solenoid completely. Next thing you need to do is you want to go into special function, drive, and you want to come down here, and what you want to do is you want to go to delete engine adaptation values. And when you come into this, you want to, it tells you to switch off the engine, continue to terminal 15. You'll see here you've got reset adaptation values and versions encoding. Now, you can pick whichever one you want to do. I usually do reset adaptation values and versions encoding. And then that means you will need to recode the DME after you do that. Or you can click this one just to reset the adaptation values, F2. You want to reset the adaptation values. Once you've done that, you'll turn the engine off, let it sleep, because it will tell you to put the car to sleep, which will tell you to take the key out of the ignition, make sure the lights are off, everything else. Let the car go to sleep. That way it learns fresh. It doesn't learn, because what ends up happening is the car's engine, especially if you've driven with a bad Vanos solenoid, it will constantly lack power. And what the reset and adaptations does is restore all that power and puts the engine back to normal the way it was meant to be. Because that solenoid, the car would have learned certain values of when the solenoid was completely gone. So basically, if the solenoid has failed, the car will be running like crap, running underpowered. The best way to get your power back is to reset the adaptations on the car. After you've done that and the car's gone to sleep, you want to come back here, and what you want to go to is you want to go to in drive again. So you come to drive and you want to go to learning Valvetronic limit positions. Unless you do that one, learn the Valvetronic limit positions, the car's idle will not maintain steadiness. What will end up happening is you'll notice your RPMs keep fluctuating up and down, up and down, up and down. You should hear the Valvetronic motor calibrate itself backwards and forwards as it turns. You need to do that after you reset the adaptations. The Valvetronic limit positions will not learn themselves just by resetting the adaptations. After resetting the adaptations, it will forget them, so you need to relearn them again. The full thing I'm going to be talking to you about right now is the update. If you have the silver magnesium valve cover, make sure to update your ECU to the latest firmware, especially if you've got 05 or an 06 car, you will not be on the latest version. This wasn't, and this has been updated now. I updated it. Do make sure to check your software version. I will show you how to do that, because I know many of you are going to ask me how to check your software version. This is the latest one. So what we're going to go to here, system scan. And what I want to do is I'm going to access one of the modules. So we're going to access the DME, so I can show you the version that you need to be on. This is the version firmware you want to be on. Should be up here somewhere, this one. I'll show you the version you need to be on. So your version should be this one, 7577968. That should be your software number on your car. This is an MSV70 ECU. You can see here, you've got all the different numbers, calibration ID 7581257, and this part number 7581258, calibration ID 7577968. And that's the one you want. That's the latest version on the firmware on this ECU. That's the firmware number right here. And this is what I mean, guys, this scan tool is really, really good. This scan tool will not update your ECU. I know many of you are going to ask that. This can't, but there's other scan tools that can. If it's going to be too much for you, or something you ain't going to need long term, then just pay someone to update it. It's something I can do as well. If you contact me, or there's many videos on the expert membership that will help you update your DME as well, especially if you're not on the latest version, because you are going to benefit from that. Otherwise, you're going to go through solenoids like nobody's business. But that, guys, is what you need to do when you replace your Vanos solenoids, especially if they have failed. Now I've shown you how to actually reset the car and reset the solenoids when you get them. Because like I said, it's just like shutting the cylinder off, running in reduced power mode. So make sure to do them things I actually showed you, and it will make your solenoids and your car run absolutely amazing thereafter. But like I said, there'll be many people who will copy this video after, who have gone and installed the solenoids thinking you just install them and it works, and now they'll correct it and now show you what to do, probably on a scan tool. So as many of you guys know, that's YouTube for you, nothing we can do. But thank you very much for watching, guys. It's BMW Dr. Dean here, and goodbye.